Hey everybody, I'm David Chumley coming to you from a safe at home house of about 1,700 square feet. And just a block over is Jason Fuller, who is the pastor of Action Community Church here in town. We've known each other for the last couple years more than we did the few years before that, even though we knew of each other.
Yeah.
And it was so cool when we discovered that we're also neighbors here in Fresno. So that's an awesome thing. So Jason, thanks for coming to talk, man. I'm excited about this. I hope we'll have a lot of fun listening to this and just get a smile on their face.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for bringing me on. I'm looking forward to the next Netflix special.
Yeah, that's true. When we get to that spot and we bring in the real big names, then you and I can be the gaffers in the crew.
Right? Key grip number 1 and key grip number 2.
But we'll get a percentage once we sell the rights, So So man, you've been pastoring Action Church did you guys start up in 2008 or 10? When was it?
Yeah, 12. We started on April Fool's 2012. And my joke is you have to be a fool to plant a church.
Yeah, boy. So I'm on my second round, so that means I'm just out there.
Yeah, you're the king of us, Chumley.
That's funny. That's so cool, man. When Lucinda and I were back in the area, but up at the camp, and just every once in a while we'd get to come down to Fresno to visit. We loved coming to visit at the church, and we're so blessed by the community of believers that's together there. And I know from being involved in church plants too, that takes a lot to drive that. I mean, you guys wanting to see people love Jesus and live out their faith a certain way. A lot of that is from how you've modeled that for people. So in these last couple of years, especially now that we live close too, man, we've just been really blessed by having you guys close here and getting to develop a relationship.
Yeah, well, we feel the same. We feel the same about you guys. You guys are the best of the best, and King's Cross is very, very fortunate to have you guys leading the church. So
Jason, with you and Eve and the family over there, you guys got a wide range of kids. I mean,
oh yeah.
Little Bo, is he 3 or 4 now?
He's 4. He'll be 5 in May.
Okay.
And then we have
also junior hires and high schoolers.
Then a 13-year-old junior hire, and then a 16-year-old sophomore, and then an 18-year-old senior, which 18-year-old senior is kind of weird because it's like, already not yet, there's a
yeah, that's true. Wow. So how's it been trying to do the social distancing thing, but helping those guys with their social life? And how's that been the last couple of days?
Yeah, the baby is driving us all crazy. This would be easy if they were, nobody was, under, I don't know, 10, 12, and
right.
Nobody was older than 16. I think there's a sweet spot in social distancing, where they still are okay being just home with mom and dad, and also don't need constant attention.
Yeah, I've seen lately some parents or families putting up stuff, and it's one thing to see the ones with the little kids and you see their mechanisms and things. And then it's another one to see the one with the teenagers. And I'm like, and when we were about to talk, I'm like, oh man, you're battling on both fronts. That's kind of an interesting thing.
Yeah.
To try to navigate through that.
Yeah. The teen he gets it. So thankfully we haven't had too much resistance from him. A little more in the front side of things, but he's starting to understand a little more. Like, I'll be like, here, read this. If you can read this and you still think you want to go out, fine. You're,
That's so funny.
Our president said that you need to stay home.
Yeah.
So the preschooler, he thinks it's great.
That's really funny.
Yep.
Hey, just the other day when it was great. You were walking around, nice social distancing, but you guys got to say hi. That was really cool. And when you're doing that, I remember I asked you, and I know you guys did live stream for your own service. Right?
Yeah.
So I forgot, is that something that Action has normally done too? Has that been a part of that you guys would live stream for people that weren't able to be there anyways?
Yeah, we've done live stream for a few years. So fortunately, the funny thing is just before all this happened, our live stream was just acting up. There was a constant hum in it. We couldn't figure out what was going on. I mean, it was not enjoyable to watch. And literally the weekend before everything kind of went crazy. A handful of guys, they went in and completely re-gutted the whole system, rewired the system, and it's never worked better.
Yeah.
So that was really God's provision for us, because we were like, whoa, we didn't realize we may really be dependent on this for a while. And so we're pretty thankful that the system's up and running well now. And so since this, we've been only more using YouTube, and then because it's a good archive as well.
Right.
But since this, we actually expanded to use going both Facebook Live and YouTube.
Yeah. So when you went in on Sunday morning, so did you have your worship team also? Was it just, I know there's a bunch of approaches, and so I've been watching around too with different churches, and it just seems so interesting to see how everyone does it. So did you guys do the team up front and everything, but just nobody out there?
You know what? No, that was the plan. And then the state, everything's changing so fast. The plan was, okay, we'll just do that. We'll just go in and just record to a, non-live studio audience. And that was the plan. And then Friday, when I think it's Thursday or Friday of last week, when Governor Newsom made the statewide emergency, we really thought, okay, maybe we ought to stay home and do this. So then we initiated a scramble plan of all of us doing our own parts. And then we would put it all together to publish one whole. And then on Saturday, we found out from our superintendent, there's been clarification on this. Now you can go to your church. And I was just like, oh. So we had already had it already made. And it's funny, I actually had a brown blanket up as my backdrop. And at one point the dog came through the door and knocks it down. And so we went very low production this week. And then, but now that we have the green light, we will be moving forward with meeting at the church with the skeleton crew.
That's funny. It's like Fallon on late night stuff, with trying to do it from the house, and here comes the dog, here comes the kids, all that stuff.
Yeah. At one point, I think my wife was yelling at the kids, and I said, I paused it. I said, unless you want, everybody who listens to this to hear that, right. Awesome. You guys got to be quiet for just a few more minutes.
That's cool. Well, I know that I was talking to Lucinda, and we knew that if you're going to do broadcast stuff and do it from the church, you guys have such a creative group of folks that are involved there. And we were really blessed this year to come into one of the theater productions that people from the church do, and that happened on site. And even last year, there was a Sunday when we came around to visit that was stand-up comedy morning.
Yeah.
It was just so awesome. So, man, Jason, I love that. Do you feel like, is that just that creative piece and stuff, is that a God thing in you that you feel like has just influenced the church? Or did that stuff come out of people when you started getting together? Or where did that high level of creativity really come in from?
Yeah, I think it's both and. I guess, it's kind of weird to say, I guess I've always been creative.
Yeah.
And I think what it is, you just kind of leverage your gifts, and has been one of my gifts, is to be able to think of things kind of in different ways and communicate things differently. And so we've been doing that, and we do it relentlessly. And I think what's happened is that has drawn people who are way more creative than me now. And, I'm just the hack up there now. Anytime we do these types of things, it's like, I guess Jason can do it because, he's the pastor, but these people are way better at it. But it's, you just kind of do your thing, and it draws people that are similar to you in a lot of ways.
That's really cool, though. So the theater stuff, you guys are trying to do a couple of productions a year, correct? Or is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And
then, that's the goal. This whole.
Oh, I lost you for a second. See if you cut back in. That's okay. This hasn't happened yet in our Clergy.
That's kind of up in the air right now as well. Our next production, probably at this point, the goal is to launch, in 2021, 3 different ones is the goal.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so we'll see. We launched Action Community Theater last December, and using that as a means to raise money for missions, and also make theater accessible to people by telling great stories.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. So I would think initially it probably would have been connections from the cast and the people and the church, but have you felt like it's been able to get out in the community more? And has there been those kind of pulls?
Yeah. Again, I think, as you do more of these things, as we keep doing more and more, it just draws more people that are like-minded. Somebody that says, "Whoa, I didn't realize my gift could be used in this way," and in the church, when it's elevated and you give it a particular point
Yeah.
of prominence in the church, then it'll draw those people that have those gifts.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, I feel like with all this, we're slowed down a little bit, but what I also am realizing, getting people who are talented in the theater world booked, even people that are regular attenders of your church and members of your church, a lot of times they're scheduled out even a year in advance, committed to shows in town, productions in town. So that's something we're like, oh, all right, well, just because you have people with desire doesn't mean they have availability. And so so that's why really 2021 will be a larger rollout, because we're starting to say, okay, well, we got you booked next year. Don't commit to somebody else during that window. And so so that's the plan right now. More of a, I guess you could say our Christmas production was a soft launch, and 2021 hopefully will be a larger launch.
Well, that's pretty awesome. I was thinking about, I don't know if I read on the website or maybe had a talk with you at some point, but I know when you guys started the church and for Action Community Church, and Lord really led you to a name that was talking about love in action and being those people that were going to live that out. But it really struck me too that conflict, that a lot of us as believers in church have about just coming to a church and being a spectator only instead of a participant. And man, it's like with the creativity and the heart and the family involvement that you guys have, people are very active in the church. I mean, that's amazing. I never would have thought I don't think you can make that happen by picking a name and saying, okay, everybody must do this. But it's the old Bible thing about, you name a character, did they live into their name?
Yeah.
Or did God foreordain that or whatever? But man, how cool is it that your community of believers, people are really active.
Yeah.
And even the thing of, I don't know if it was at all on your and Eve's heart to do adoption stuff, but before, the church developed into that, but man, you got so many people active in that now too. And that's an amazing, what a cool thing for the church to represent, right?
Yeah. It's funny because, we went into it with the theater emphasis.
Right.
And we knew that there would be some type of social justice emphasis in there, but hadn't yet quite put a finger on what that was. The Lord actually gave me the name, in the shower of all places. That's when great things come. It's because we slow down enough to stop and listen, And I got out and I was like, I don't know. It's kind of cheesy, kind of hokey. And then I got out and do my devotions that morning, 1 John 3:18, and the gist of the verse is, let us not love in words, but in action and in truth. And I was like, whoa, that's it. Okay, that's the name. And and what we found from the beginning, we through a book called Church Unique, helping churches find their uniqueness. It was a critical book for us in launching. And they said, if you're trying to figure out why God has pulled this, ragtag group of people together, figure out your core passions with one another. And a lot of times you'll see a thread running through a group, and that sometimes will be the answer to your question of why has he brought us here?
Right.
And what we found on that, we had a whiteboard, and it was a moment on a Wednesday night back in 2011. And we found special needs and adoption again and again and again and again. And we said, there's a mandate. We need to do this. We have to do this, something in this world. And that really launched us. Eve and I were ourselves, always thought it was a good idea. And that's, the timing wasn't right in our own minds. And the Lord used the people around us to inspire us to get off the bench and step in. So, so we've been changed by our church as much as, hopefully people have been changed by us.
That's cool. That's just, I love that idea of God developing that, and kind of which comes first, the one or the other, I don't know, but God does in his way of looking at stuff. And to see churches have those flavors and find that common thread and start to live that out. So it's cool.
I think far too often, we look around and we try to be imitators, And then I skateboarded as a kid, as a teenager, and you always could tell somebody who wasn't a skateboarder, And
Right.
so we call them posers, and it was like, that was the worst. Like
Yeah.
you would literally get in a fight with someone if they called you a poser.
Right.
and and I think sometimes we get tempted to become, kind of church posers, like what's working somewhere else. And
Right.
we don't have a passion for it. We're just grabbing at something to try to make something work.
Yeah.
And, and then we end up putting on, Saul's armor instead of our own. And why has God, and the Lord rebuked me, because I was part of another church plant in Northwest Fresno before we started Action. We were part of LifeBridge.
Yeah.
And I just kind of assumed, we'll do school ministry. And, and the Lord just said, that's not you. Stop, and rebuked me. He says, you be you.
That's
You are
great.
unique. And I've called you to be, this church to be its own thing. And so, yeah, I really do believe that God has a unique calling for every church, and it's unique. And, to figure that out is an important part of the journey of each church.
And the cool thing is, I think when people can live into that, I used to tell guys this as youth pastors, we're trying to figure out how to do their stuff and looking and kind of being posers by looking at other stuff. But man, you're the right leader for that group of people, and they're the right group of people for you as the leader. And if you can just relax into that, then creativity flows, and God, brings up your own uniqueness.
Yeah.
I'm really glad for that to come out in this discussion, because I think people, even in church ministry during this weird coronavirus shelter time, they're going to probably be looking around to try to copy something else. And there's so much technology and tool available. You don't have to do it like anybody else, right?
Sure.
You just live out what God puts.
Sure.
And there's a lot of freedom and a lot of life in that, I think.
Yeah, no, that's great. And yeah, and a lot, and if we can just rest in who we are. And, I know the temptation was, I was looking around, all right, what are the other guys doing? How's it look? I fell into that trap this past week, of like, what's it look like? How's their production quality? Well, how did they pull that off is what I was thinking, like, seriously, they have multiple camera angles? They got to have more than 10 people there. I'm reporting them.
Well, I've yet to see one that comes across with just like a couple of iPhones. But I wonder, in some circumstances that might fly,
Hey, well, check out mine from this past weekend.
Yeah. That's awesome.
It was a couple of iPhones.
Man.
And then the thing is, I was too dumb to turn my camera sideways. Yeah, I know. And so this is like the live and learn. So like, I'm seriously like, my whole thing was filmed, in that way instead of this way.
Right. Well,
it's like we got to give ourselves grace though for this time,
Yeah. And I don't know. I guess the older I get, the more that stuff makes me smile, and I love it. And I don't even just have grace for it. That's what you end up really enjoying. That's so awesome, right? You can just love that stuff. So that's cool. Well, man, I know this is a quick kind of down and dirty talk, but I want people that are connected to me to get to meet you. And
thank you.
We just love you guys. And it's kind of funny to be here in town and close as neighbors. And like I said, just growing in our relationship with you. But man, I'm just so proud of you guys in the church, and it's so healthy. And I love even being in the same community, that we get to be a stepbrother of that church. So you know what I mean? I just love being here in Fresno and being connected in, just because we're all serving the Lord together. So
yeah, we love you guys, and really, you guys are truly some of the best in our city, and have been such bright lights for so many years. Really decades, not just years. And it really is an honor to be your friend and neighbor, and co-labor in the Lord right now in this time. Because
well, thanks, Jason. Let me pray for you guys in the church.
Sure. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely.